I met Tracey about 16 years ago. I was new to the community, and he began to attend our church. He became a member. We began to have conversations, and he would freely share his story of what I think is real redemption and determination, a lot of pluck and grit. He's come out and he's created his own opportunities. And the challenge of his story, though, is yes, there is the hope of someone who can do that, but it also says to us, what kind of environment are we creating as a culture for people who may not have the resources to do what Tracey has done? Everybody is not going to be a Tracey Syphax, but everyone does, I believe, deserve a real second chance. But where we are right now as a culture, I don't think they're afforded that. They come out of prison, and the first thing people talk about, find a job, find a job. Well, that's easier said than done when you have a record. And the first thing you do when you fill out an application, you have to say, well, have you been arrested, and or you convicted, and that. And so we have to really examine ourselves about who we are as a culture in terms of creating an environment that really does foster rehabilitation as opposed to recidivism. I find our justice system now to be far more punitive than rehabilitative. I think that there are financial interests that influence the prison industrial complex. It's an industry. And so it's not in their best interest for these things to change. And because money talks, any real meaningful reform is going to be challenged on every hand. And it's going to be challenged sometimes, I think, with people who sound good, saying, well, prisoners, they should serve the maximums, they should do this. But no. What you're doing is you are simply creating a cycle. You're creating a cycle. If you allow someone to come in and they've served their time, and then you release them, and they are still really serving time because there are no opportunities for them, the doors are not open, it's just a cycle. And of course, there's an element of race in it. When you look at our policies, our drug policies, and the way that they're applied, the sentencing practices of the justice system, African Americans and other minorities are disproportionately represented. And often that is not necessarily because there's a disproportionate number of us committing the crimes. A lot of it has to do with having the resources and the context to have a good defense. And so it's a multi-layered issue, and it is something that is going to take decades to deal with. I believe that there has to be a huge spiritual component. That's one of the things that I've seen with Tracey and others who have actually successfully come out. There has to be something intangible in a person. And the environment that they're in is important in terms of tapping into that and bringing that out of them to keep them going. That's very important. It's relationships, whether they be family. Family comes in a lot of different ways, but there have to be strong, positive relationships, emotionally, spiritually, those kinds of connections. And they have to know that they have a culture that is, I think, supporting them, that has not just said, you messed up and forever you wear this label. Tracey took what he learned and he established his own business. I mean, it would be a difficult time for him to go out and just get a job. He started his own business, and what I've seen him do in his business is I've seen him create opportunities for other people who have the same sort of history, and I've seen him begin to evolve. I've watched the business grow, and it's grown, I believe, because he gives back so much. And it's a marvelous thing when you have people who are aware of where they've come from and are determined to say, all right, what I took, I'm going to give back more. And I think Tracey is one of those persons. And so I've watched him evolve with his business, and then I've watched him not be, we have such a culture of shame as well. People they're afraid to speak of their past, particularly if they have come out and they're trying to find opportunities. But he tells his story, and because he has had his own business, he is free to do it, and he shares it freely as an inspiration for others. Very rarely do you see major reforms like that from the top down. They're ground-up movements. And so when you see Tracey and what he does with From the Block to the Boardroom, it's a part of a larger effort, a grassroots effort. If there's going to be change, it is going to be from the bottom up. So communities, churches, individuals have got to be active with this. This is something that will only change bottom up.